I recently did a survey of over 250 Christians in Singapore and found out that 72.8% of Christians have changed church at least once. With about 400 churches in Singapore, Christians are spoiled for choice when it comes to choosing a church to attend. However, what actually does govern people's decisions to change churches, and can it be examined sociologically? Well, in this video essay, I'm arguing that the phenomenon of Christians changing churches is a form of quasi-conversion following the Laughlin-Stark conversion model. The Laughlin-Stark conversion model was developed in 1965 by John Laughlin and Rodney Stark, proposing 7 necessary and sufficient conditions that must take place for conversion to a new religion or deviant perspective. In brief terms, a person must experience enduring acutely felt tensions, have a religious perspective towards solving these tensions, define themselves as a religious seeker, encounter the deviant perspective at a turning point in their life, form cult-affective bonds with the converts, neutralize extra-cult attachments, and lastly, be exposed to intensive interaction among the converts. In looking at Christians who change church, I will demonstrate that most of these conditions are inarguably met, leading me to view changing church as a form of quasi-conversion. So let's start from the top. Tension in the Laughlin-Stark conversion model can be understood as a discrepancy between one's ideal and one's reality. An article written by Singaporean Christian website Thirst cites 5 different reasons that Singaporean Christians commonly change church: leadership, relationships, teaching, disunity, and spiritual health. In my own survey, I discovered other factors of God's calling and family, among a few others. All these sociologically resemble tension factors, where Christians have some form of dissatisfaction or unhappiness with the way things are happening in their current church. This leads to step 2 and 3. Having a religious perspective towards solving these tensions is only natural, as is defining oneself as a religious seeker. This is where changing church bears slight differences to religious conversion, because Christians by default already possess a religious attitude towards churches, with the most popular reason for changing church being spiritual health. In seeking new churches, the most popular factors respondents took into consideration were church teaching, doctrine, theology, or spiritual health. Cult-affective bonds are step 5 in the model, where the person converting must have some form of intimate or affectionate bonding with the converts. This does account for 25% of respondents, indicating that community or friendships are something they actively look for when searching for a new church, and a few respondents who also said they changed church to follow their spouse. However, neutralizing extra-cult attachments is not a factor in church conversion, arguably because people in different churches largely hold to the same belief system, and changing church does not create significant strain between converts and people they are close to in their original church. In fact, many people who have changed church still maintain close friendships with their connections in previous churches. According to Laughlin and Stark, the last contingency to meet status of a total convert must be intensive interaction, which includes converting others to the deviant perspective and availing oneself to the service of the deviant perspective. Many churches in Singapore very intentionally promote this, with several church websites containing tabs demonstrating how members can participate and be involved in serving the church. They clearly understand the necessity of getting members to be involved in church-related activities so that members will stay in the church. Because church conversion is not as big an event as converting to a cult or religion, it makes sense that it does not have to fit all the necessary and sufficient conditions laid out in the Laughlin-Stark conversion model. You might have noticed that I neglected to include step 4, the turning point step. This is because church converts in this sense are not required to undergo such a drastic change or turning point in their faith or way of thinking, and are free to regularly change churches without much opposition, with 8% of respondents having changed more than 5 times in their lives. However, the fact that the pattern of changing church where possible largely follows a similar line as conversion according to Laughlin and Stark is to me substantial ground for labeling church changing as a form of quasi-conversion. Thank you.